Hello everyone, I hope you are as excited as I am because we are officially in swing trade season. That is right, we are in a bull market and there are trading opportunities everywhere, specifically with swing trading, which is one of my favorite ways to trade. In this video, which I hope is going to be under 10 minutes, I'm going to be as quick as possible. I'm going to be focusing purely on my last 4 swing trades, 3 of which I already closed out and 1 of which I actually just opened. So guys, let's not waste any time and talk about trades. First things first, going over to my trading screen, let's start with a little bit of housekeeping. So how do we know that we are in a bull market? Well, we've actually been in a bull market for, you could say, roughly a few weeks now if you are looking at the daily or the 4-hour. And if you are looking at the weekly, you can actually say we were never in a bear market at all. The point is right now the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hour moving average are all bullish, and I'm going to go pull up the chart in a second and show you guys exactly what I mean by that. You will have a reference point and know generally what I'm talking about. The reason I'm going to be reviewing the trades is to give you a concrete example inside the market so you know exactly what I'm talking about after we review these few points right here. So in a bullish market, the price tends to bounce off of support levels. If you don't know what support levels are, watch literally any of my other videos because I talk about support levels quite extensively. Anyway, when you are in a bull market and the market is constantly making higher highs and higher lows, then you look for those higher lows as key entry points. When the price is around 5 to 10% past my position, so I'm down 5-10%, I will either look into adding more into my position or I'll start looking for an ideal exit. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly what I mean by that in the charts later on as well. Just keep that in mind. If the price moves against our trade 5 to 10%, are we going to be adding more to this position? Are we still in an uptrend? And if those are no, right, if we don't feel comfortable with adding more to our position, maybe it's time to start looking for an exit. Remember, something really important about this as well is we are not day trading. Most of the trading I do on this channel and in the crypto markets is day trading. So that is very, very different. So make sure to get that through your head before continuing watching this video. We are swing trading. These are rules for swing trading and not day trading. There are 3 quick things to ask yourself before entering a swing position or placing a limit order, which is typically the way I do it. I place limit orders near key support and resistance areas, and most of the trading is done completely when I'm offline, and that's a huge reason why I like swing trading. Actually, I talk about that right here, that one of my favorite things about swing trading is simply the fact that I don't really have to be online, and it frees up a lot of time to put back into my schedule. So let's go over these 3 points on when to enter and, in theory, when to exit a swing trade. The first one is, are we in a bullish market? Right now, we talked about that already ahead of time. Yes, yes, and yes. Is the coin that we are looking to trade also in a bullish trend, right? Is it in an uptrend? Is it making higher highs and higher lows? And the third point that we want to think about is, are we getting a good value, or am I getting a good value? Think about risk reward. Is there major support under my entry position? And is there a decent amount of upside? So maybe a 1 to 3 risk reward ratio of upside. If any of this stuff I'm talking about doesn't make sense, just check out any of my other videos, because what I am talking about in this video is not necessarily new. However, I am applying it to swing trades, and that is something I have not done much this year at all, because why? We were in, I would say, a daily bearish market, and I don't want to buy things that I know I'm going to hold for several days or several weeks when the market is going down. So that is one of the main reasons why I have been day trading the majority of the time. So before we do anything else, let me share my trading chart with you guys and go over to BTC USD, just to explain a little bit more about this upwards trend that I'm talking about. So if we bring up the moving average, which is this green line right here, it is the 180-day moving average. It's one of the few indicators that I ever use. To me, all you need is price and volume, but it is nice to have a moving average on your screen just to give you a better idea or maybe an additional confirmation of the trend. Although you can always use a simple price and volume to basically tell you what the trend is, right? Higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high. Ooh, that's kind of weird to say. And all at the same time, we are making higher lows. So that is obviously a bullish trend. Anyway, let me show you guys the weekly chart of Bitcoin. Here you can see the weekly chart. And since we are on Coinbase, it simply doesn't go back as far as we needed to. But it was very rare when this actually went under the 180-day moving average. And these little breakouts right here aren't really confirmations because at no point does it stay under the moving average for an extended period of time, right? We don't have a breakout, continue the downtrend, and then start bouncing off the moving average and really confirm a downtrend. That is why in the weekly chart, you could almost say that we were never in a bearish market. Let's go over to the daily quickly and show you guys what it looks like here. With the daily, we were in a very, very bearish market, right? We were constantly bouncing off the moving average, and eventually we did break through it, and then that is when we entered the bull market. So you could say in a way that we entered the bull market maybe on April 2nd or April 1st, whenever this big green candle was. Now let's look at the 4-hour and see how the moving average looks like on the 4-hour. And this is actually where we started off the video. You can see every time we touch this, we kind of bounce off of it. There was no real dips under it until maybe around, where was April? So this is April, the big dip. And then here you can see even in the, February 11th, we actually started the bull run on the 4-hour. So now we have 3 different indicators, longer term indicators, and most traders use the daily in the 4-hour. So they're very powerful indicators that show that we are in a bullish uptrend. So now that we reviewed what a bullish uptrend looks like, let's go ahead and review these last 4 trades. The first trade that I made, or the first swing trade that I made, was DNT, and this was actually a fairly small position. Let me go ahead and bring up the trade journal documentation. The P&L for this position was beautiful. It was a 24% profit trade. The position size was tiny. I rarely trade with a position size this small. All my day trades are usually around $10,000, and as of lately, my day trades are around $15,000. But this was a fairly small entry. This coin was not as heavily traded as the other cryptocurrencies that I trade. So I just simply wanted to take a small position, not have too much risk for a smaller traded coin, because there can be liquidity issues. But I loved what the price was showing us, and that was the big reason behind it. So this was a support line bounce, and almost all of my swing trades are support line bounces. So instead of using the images that I have here, which I saved for you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and go into the charts to get a little better perspective. So again, this is the Coinbase chart, and this is exactly the exchange that I used to enter this trade. However, it doesn't show that much data. So let me go to the DNT from, I think it's Binance, this one. We have a little bit more data, and here I already drew some support lines. These blue support lines are basically areas that show key support and resistance on a longer term view, so the 4-hour and the daily. What you can see here is this initial big crash down here. We had one big massive bounce up here, and eventually this is the same area that was new resistance. As you can see, we had several touches here, and then a fake out that happened here. Well, this was almost a legit breakout, but the problem with this one is even though it went up 30%, it did not hold, and it eventually got completely rejected very quickly. So to me, this is not a very clean breakout. We did have big volume, but overall a fake out in my book. Then you can see that price came back here, touched it, and this was basically the last blow before the price fell completely. That also goes the same for these 3 blue lines that I drew down here. here. So if we zoom in a little bit and keep these blue lines in mind, let's see how this trade unfolded based on these lines. So what happened was we were bouncing off a all-time low area, and now we were getting back to these former resistance areas. And initially we were having a hard time breaking out of these areas, but then we came above it, and then a small fake out right here, and then we broke to the upside. And this kind of looks like the one before. Remember how I said it was more of a fake out in my book? Well, again, we kind of had this. We tried to break to the upside, but then we got completely rejected and selling pressure started. But what happened here was a little different. We kind of came back down to this level again, showed support again, and again. And to me, that was a very bullish indicator. So what I wanted to do was simply buy where we had now previous resistance, new support, and that is why I entered this trade right here. It ended up being a way too early of an entry, and I remember I almost got out of this trade in this chop right here. But we had a lot of bullish momentum in the market, and this is why I do swing trades while we are in a bullish market, because great things can happen in a bull market. Obviously, you never know when it's going to end, but as a general upwards trend, you have a lot of interest, you have a lot of buyers, and the market usually runs very hard. So we did go down here right around 15%, give or take, of my entry position. And this is way longer than I'll typically ever hold a swing trade. But since it was a small position and I didn't really mind it too much, I was going to add into my position right around here, but I didn't really want to allocate more to this specific trade, especially with a coin that is a smaller cap, right? A smaller cap coin typically means there's less liquidity in it, which means it's harder to enter and exit a trade. So usually if this was Litecoin or Ethereum or something like that, I would have added to my position right here. Unfortunately, I didn't. And then we had a nice surge to the upside. So what made me want to sell right here? Well, if you see this fake out that we talked about previously and we weren't really able to hold our highs, I thought that maybe we'll retest that level because price loves to come back and retest former levels. Knowing that price likes to come back to former support or resistance levels, instantly, right after I entered the position, I placed an ideal exit order right around the middle of this breakout area. And the beautiful thing about this is when this big spike happened here, you can kind of see it. I was not online and I was able to get out of this trade. I don't know what I was doing. It was probably sometime in the evening. Who knows what I was doing that day, but it didn't really matter because when I checked the market, I was offline and we didn't know all this was going to happen. So getting out of this position in this big candle was a pretty amazing thing. I mean, what happens if I wanted to get out here and I did not have an ideal exit limit order in place to sell my position, and I saw this and then I was like, whoa, I could have got out, I could have made a huge profit, but I simply didn't have a limit order in place. That would have been a huge missed opportunity. Obviously there was some upside. I missed 12%, but it's very rare that you ever really get the top or bottom. Trading and swing trading is really not about getting the perfect bottom or getting the perfect top. If that is your goal, you're going to be making a lot of messy trades simply because you're going to start trying to time things and it's going to get very, very difficult. Focus on key support and resistance levels and you're going to be a much more profitable and specifically a consistently profitable trader. You might every now and then get one of those blow away trades and a perfect bottom, perfect top, which happens sometimes, but don't try to make that a habit because you're going to be setting yourself up for some pretty upsetting moments. So enough of this trade, let's go on to the next one. And the next one I want to talk about is EOS. So the EOS swing trade was very similar. And again, you can see here the P&L wasn't as beautiful. It was only 17%, which in my book is super beautiful, but it wasn't the 24%, over 20%. This position size was a bit bigger, $5.8 thousand. And so our P&L profit was actually much nicer as well. Again, this was a support line bounce. So instead of showing you guys the chart here, let me go ahead and go back to the charts. This is probably not the best chart to look at because again, this is a very small time frame. When is this? April 10th. I'm going to just use this anyway. Just keep in mind that this price goes way further back, and the price of EOS used to be much higher. So just for this sake, just keep that in mind. So what we had here was a continuous little downtrend, and eventually we started testing this resistance area a lot. And when a downwards trend gets tested this much, a lot of times what happens is we have a breakout. Things that keep going down oftentimes break out to the upside, and things that keep going up eventually break down to the downside, right? It's very simple. Knowing that, and knowing that we had a lot of support coming in right around here, and again that maybe 4.6 would be a very key support level, I went ahead and entered this trade. I was a little aggressive with this entry, and I acted a little bit more like I was day trading, even though I knew this was a swing trade, and that is my goal. I always write ahead of time if it's a day trade or a swing trade. But I simply did not want to miss a potential run to the upside, and I thought we were going to have it right here. So again, for this trade, just like the last one, I had to survive about -7% downside on this position, which is exactly in the range when I need to decide, do I want to hold on to this position or do I want to get out? Again, I love that we were having a higher low, and to me this was a very bullish indicator, and there was no reason to sell this trade, so I simply held, and then I was rewarded for that. And this trade was also just as amazing. I almost sold near a perfect high, and the reason that I did that is exactly the same reason as I sold the DNT. And if you just come over here, you can see that we had huge, well, this is kind of the beginning of the downturn, and all I did was look to our shoulder, and here I placed the limit order where we were originally having a lot of trouble getting past. I like to play things a little bit more conservative, and I placed my ideal exit order right around here, right below this resistance area. Again, a trade that completely happened when I was not online. Now you're probably thinking, Alex, you could have held much longer and made way more return on your trade. But guys, again, I don't know how many times I can say this. It's not about getting perfect entries. It's not about getting perfect exits. It's simply about getting the meat of the move. And that is exactly what I did here. Yeah, I probably could have re-entered the position right around here when we had big support, and maybe sold when we had went past the breakout and into this, made another 15%. That would have been a phenomenal trade. But this trade right here, it was really what I was focusing on. So if you kind of just zoom back around here, I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen in the future, right? We're simply trying to take very estimated risk and reward. Remember, know the trend of the market, know the trend of the coin. Are they both bullish? And if so, step number 3, is this a good value? And here you can see what I mean by value. So value is all about risk reward. What is the potential downside and what is the potential upside? To me here, the potential downside was about 5%, and that's more or less exactly what happened. And the potential upside of this trade was around 16%. That is a 1 to 3 risk reward, and that is something that I always talk about. In the future, like in the long term, you don't really know what's going to happen. If you want to invest or something like that, that is a completely different strategy. Maybe if I was investing every week, I would just buy, $100, $200, $300, and then just build a long-term portfolio so I can sell in 1, 2, 3 years, right? That's investing. But swing trading, it's a little bit looser than day trading. With day trading, I have very tight stops and everything. But with swing trading, I like to just kind of get the gist of moves, and that is why I'm super excited that we are officially back into a bull market, because we're going to be doing a lot more swing trading coming up. Okay, let's move on. EOS, that was EOS. Let's go to Cardano ADA as the last one. Guys, again, this was a support line bounce. Very simple stuff. Beautiful return, 20% P&L and $600, because this was a little smaller of a position size again. But let's go right over to the chart and kind of analyze it a little bit more. So first, let's find Cardano. Okay guys, I hope you're still with me. This is our 3rd trade review, and then we have one more, and we're going to be wrapping this video up. So again, with ADA, we had a general consistently downwards trend, and I bet you if I drew some trend lines, we could probably find a very nice channel. We had the blue lines. Remember what the blue lines are? They are a long-term support and resistance zones from 4-hour, 1-hour, and sometimes even weekly levels. So we had an initial bounce off this blue line, then we cracked it right here, but with low volume, it came right back up. That's a bullish sign. It's not, it's more or less a fake out. Again, we try to break it, but we were not able to. And then right around here I was getting a little nervous because right before then I entered the trade because I noticed that we were having kind of, I would say, bullish divergence probably even. So yeah, the RSI was looking really good. We had a general upward trend. I talk about the RSI in a few other videos, so I'm not going to focus on that in this video, but just know that the momentum was dying on this downwards trend and we were defending the level pretty well. Also, the lines I draw and the lines anyone draws are always going to be a little rough, so don't take it too seriously. Maybe this blue line should have been here, maybe it should have been here, but let's just think right now, when I entered this trade, this is where the blue line was. It's actually a funny thing that I always say that my first entry is never my best entry, and it seems to prove me right over and over again. You would think knowing this, I would get a little bit better with this, but it also highlights a beautiful thing, and that is you don't have to be a perfect trader to consistently make money, because it's very rare where my entries and my exits are ideal. Over here, my exits were actually really nice, but let's go back to the beginning. And when we had this support come in, I was thinking we were going to have one last retest of this area, and that's when I entered the trade. Unfortunately, the price kept on going down, and you know what? I should really start averaging down into my positions because 3 trades in a row this happened. But anyway, right around where I entered the trade, that 5 to 10% area again was getting a little sketchy. I was wondering what's happening here, but we had very low volume, right? When I was talking about these trades in my morning watch list, when I was talking about it in the Discord private trading chat room, I simply highlighted the fact that we are having low volume and there is no real indicator that this trend is going to continue. Especially because the RSI, and there's a lot of bullish indicators, right? You never want to put all your eggs in one basket, and that's why a lot of these positions are relatively small. And I had several long-term swing trade positions open, and I was still day trading the whole time in between. But with these positions, I never really felt like I needed to get out of the position. And right after I entered the position, like before, I simply put in ideal exit orders. What I do when I look for an ideal exit order, first, I like to identify where major resistance is, right? And that is right on this blue line. After I do that, I simply look where a former shoulder was. So here was a shoulder, here was a shoulder, here was a shoulder. And if I think there's going to be a lot of resistance right here, let me put a exit order right around maybe this shoulder. And that is what I did. And this was actually a perfect exit. The only problem is it was a partial execution, which means I don't know how much I had on this trade. Let's say I had 50,000 Cardano. And what happened was I only sold about 40,000. So I had another roughly, give or take, $10,000 Cardano left, and that is when I moved my ideal exit order and placed it down here, and luckily I was executed and then I got that. At this time, you don't really know that this is going to happen. I left a lot of money on the table, but that does not matter, guys. This trade netted me about 20% profit, 20 point, I don't know, what was it, 47 or something like that. So huge profit, completely hands off, beautiful trades. And again, now you can use these new resistance or former resistance levels as new support and find tons of trading opportunities. And it's just, the market has been so beautiful lately. I mean, you could have done a quick day trade bounce off of this. You could have looked at new entries right around here, where first we had resistance and then we broke out of. Where there was resistance are usually great entry points for the future. Here would have been a beautiful ascending channel trade, and then again a support lines trade, and all of these could be netting you 6+% over and over again. And that is how I'm able to become consistently profitable. So the last trade I want to talk about is simply the XRP swing trade that I just entered. So let's go ahead and review this last trade very quickly. I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time. Okay, so here we are on XRP. This is again on Coinbase, and if you remember about Coinbase, a lot of these altcoins, they were just recently added late last year or the beginning of this year, so the charts don't go that far back, but we were still able to find some key support and resistance levels with these short-term charts. So here we have kind of a ranging price zone, and I had a nice little swing trade right around here a few weeks back. In my watch list, I talked about this area so much. For some reason, I don't know why I did not enter any support or any swing trades into this area, but that happens a lot. I mean, you miss a lot of trades, and that is why we always talk about trading opportunities in the Discord chat room, because I mean, there is just stuff everywhere, and most of my focus has been on day trading, so I've missed quite a few swing trades. But let's talk about why I entered this trade. So we eventually broke out of this price range that we were trending in for a couple of months, and then we had hit this kind of high area around 47 cents. And along the way, we broke out of this former shoulder, this former high, and I just kept that in mind. So all I did was from here, this high, I simply traced a line and brought it over here. And I thought that in the future, we're probably going to come and retest this support zone. And that is exactly what happened. We actually had a massive crash here, and then we somewhat held it. I mean, we broke down it a few times, because you can also say that maybe the support line is more around here, where we had this shoulder where we eventually broke, because there is more volume in this area. So I guess you could actually make a pretty strong case that the support line is more or less here. Don't beat yourself up if you don't really think or know where the support and resistance is. It's not super important, because it's always more of a range. And think about it as well, a lot of people are trading XRP in different currencies, so there's just so many variables. Just keep in mind you're looking for a range. So I would say this is the general buy support range that used to be resistance, right? We came back here, we touched out of it. I mean, right here, any of this would have been a phenomenal entry, and then just selling maybe for a small balance. You could even day trade a lot of this stuff, but day trading, you sometimes have to really watch the price, and I typically don't do it with anything that is not trading 10-20 million dollars a day, because it's going to be hard to get an entry and exit, but that's a different topic. So the reason I entered this trade is we came back down, retouched this area, we came back, touched it again, and each time was a confirmation that there are a lot of buyers. And what is happening in the meantime, right? In the meantime, we are having a lot of selling pressure, and we are constantly kind of making this downwards trend where the price keeps on getting rejected. What I'm looking for is a breakout of this rejection level, and when we have a breakout, we might have a little bit of consolidation right here, and then eventually a move to the upside, and that is what I'm looking for. So I already went ahead. This already exists in Coinbase. I have a sell order where we had a lot of this former resistance right here. So I identified a top resistance level, and I'm a very conservative trader. I don't like taking too much risk, right? That is, to me, the worst thing, and I try to avoid it at all costs. So I'm going to be very conservative about this trade, and I'm not going to wait for the price to come back perfectly to this high. Remember, I'm not investing. I'm not long-term XRP by any means. But I do believe that there is right now good risk reward. Again, guys, let's review the risk reward. What is the risk? The risk is that we come back down here and the price find some support, and if we see signs of cracking right around here, we're going to get out of this position. So our risk is around 5%. What is the potential upside? The potential upside is around 20%. So that's about 1 to 4 risk reward. It's super nice. And you know what? Being a conservative trader, I am looking for just around 18% profit, and I would like to sell into this range. So that is kind of how my swing trading works in a nutshell. It has similarities from my day trading, but is a little looser, and it's not as specific. It just looks for general zones, right? Also, this is just one pattern that I trade for swing trades. This is simple support and resistance, one of the most basic ways to swing trade and just trade in general. But this is just one pattern that I look for when I am day trading or swing trading. It is one of my favorite patterns, but remember, it's just one. There's definitely more patterns out there, some more aggressive, some more conservative. But what I like about the support and resistance zones for entries and exits is that it's very simple. Anyone just getting into the market can kind of understand how they work, and it doesn't take a lot of practice before you can start drawing these lines yourself and really understanding understanding all the moving parts and just understanding the value, right? What's the risk reward? And then going through those three points, right? Again, are we in a bullish market? Is the coin going in a upwards trend? And 3, what is the risk reward? If you still don't understand what risk reward is or any of those 3 points, just watch this video again. I hope it would make sense the next time. If you still have any questions, leave a comment below. Give a thumbs up if you like this video. I would super appreciate it, and subscribe if you have not already and you would like to see some more videos. That's all from me. I will see you guys on Monday for the weekly trade review live stream at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Till then, ciao, ciao.